Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. Today's video, submitted by Hornet 10 in the Progetto 65 here, the Italian tier 10 medium auto reloading tank, is one replay that for a number of different reasons I didn't think I was really going to make a video out of. And the first reason being, and I do apologise, there are some minor spoilers here, is that when I first took a look at the replay file, and realised that it was only a second class mastery badge, I thought, well, this can't possibly be any good. What was the point of sending this replay in? And then I looked and realised that Hornet is going to do 7,000 damage in this game, and in this tank that's only good enough for a second class mastery badge, so I thought, well, okay, maybe it will be worth watching. So then I actually watched the battle, and within seconds of the game starting, for reasons that will become abundantly clear any time now, I started thinking to myself, okay, there's absolutely no way I can make an interesting video out of this. And it's all because of those things. The EBR 105s in particular, and wheeled vehicles in general. But the more I watched, the more I thought, you know, a video absolutely definitely really does need to be made about this. And so that's why you're watching that poor Centurion Action 10 getting utterly obliterated right from the start of the game, as he gets spotted by a pair of EBR 105s zipping around at 95 kilometers per hour while being focused down by Hornet's entire team to no practical effect. Because these little fuckers are so fast that often, even when they're a good 2 to 250 meters away, a medium tank's turret just can't turn fast enough to track them. They pull the kind of manoeuvres at these breakneck speeds that just defy the laws of physics and would see any other tank flipping over. And if you are lucky enough to hit them, I mean, how many shots so far do you think have been fired at these two? You can't tell just from looking at their hit point bars. Because these things have wheels that just absorb high caliber armor piercing shells. You could be forgiven watching these things zip around, basically unharmed, despite getting shot at by Hornet's entire team. At some point, surely it must have occurred to the French, instead of wasting all that time researching composite and ceramic armour for their tanks, why not just start building their tanks out of EBR 105 wheels? Because no other substance on this planet seems to absorb armour-piercing shots like it. Nevertheless, if the planets do line up in perfect conjunction and you do actually manage to score a hit on one of these things when it's zipping around at 95 kilometers per hour and you do blow one of the wheels off, you'd expect it to slow down, but, well, that just doesn't happen either. When one of these things is moving at 95 kilometers per hour, it only has 4 of its 8 wheels in contact with the ground, and what would happen in the real world if you blew one of those wheels off was that the damaged axle would bite into the ground, causing the whole thing to flip end over end, crashing into a snotty heap 50 meters further down the road. But what actually happens here in World of Tanks is nothing. They don't even slow down unless the driver suddenly starts turning left or right while suffering from a damaged wheel, at which point they slow down to 90 kilometers per hour. Yeah. In fact, depending on the terrain and the circumstances, they don't even slow down by that much. I can remember watching one of Klaus Kellerman's videos where he was demonstrating just how absurd those things are by YOLOing right through the middle of the enemy team on the Westfield map. Naturally, the entire enemy team stopped doing anything other than trying to shoot him. Pretty much exactly the same as what's been happening here for the best part of the last 4 minutes. And the only thing that really happened was that after losing a wheel or two, Klaus slowed down too. 94 kilometers per hour. Look at this guy. He must have had 100 shots fired at him. And he's just driven right through the middle of the team, took a couple of hits from the dozens fired at him, which didn't really do anything other than blow a couple of wheels off, and, well, didn't slow him down any, did it? He killed the artillery, and now he's run off to safety. Try doing that in a light tank and let me know how it works out for you. And of course the EBR doesn't even have to be a particularly good shot in order to pull that sort of thing off, because they also have assisted auto-aim, because it would be next to impossible to accurately be able to point the gun of the tank at something that you wanted to shoot at while moving and turning at these kind of speeds. So if you're in an EBR, or any of the wheeled vehicles, you just have to point the gun in the rough direction of the target that you want to lock onto, and let the ridiculous accuracy while firing on the move and the stupidly high penetration of the high explosive shells do the rest for you. Which is why that EBR was able to YOLO right through the middle of the team and do a drive-by execution of the artillery without even breaking sweat. Well, yes, Jingles, but these things are limited by their poor view. Holy shit, did he actually hit him and do damage? is he allowed to do that? Anyway, where were we? Oh, that's right. But yes, Jingles, these things are limited by their poor view range. So they need this extreme speed and maneuverability to survive while active spotting. Yeah, but they don't have poor view range. With that enhanced auto-aim, you don't need to fit a vertical stabilizer to these things. That's right, these tanks are zipping around at these kind of speeds, pulling these kind of maneuvers and snapping off these kind of shots without even having vertical stabilizers fitted. Instead, they all take coated optics. And in fact, tests were run with an EBR 105 versus an LT 100, which is the best spotter in the game, and it was found that the EBR only has 30 meters less view range. Other than that, it's got better view range than every other light tank in the game. Let's talk about that extreme mobility, by the way, because there's actually quite a funny story about that. You see, it was found, you're going to have to hold your breath for this one, it was found that wheeled vehicles were losing speed when they were turning. And this was a bug. Just try to wrap your head around that one for a second, because I'm not making this up, okay? It was discovered that wheeled vehicles were losing speed when they were turning. And that was such a problem that it had to be hot fixed out in patch 1.9.3. You see, here's the thing. If you've ever watched an EBR, in fact you've been watching them do it right here, rocketing along at close to 100 kilometers per hour in one direction and then suddenly effectively pulling a handbrake turn, a 180-degree turn, executed in a fraction of a second, and then suddenly they're rocketing along at close to 100 kilometers per hour back the way they came. What's actually happening there is the EBR driver is hitting the turn, taking their finger momentarily off the W key, and then as soon as they're pointing in the other direction, which takes a fraction of a second, they accelerate again, and they lose... Oh shit, you've got to be kidding. Hornet finally hit something that wasn't a wheel, and it bounced off the EBR's 50mm of armour. A 105mm armour-piercing composite rigid shell bounced off 50mm of French armour. Well, of course it did. But anyway, where were we? Ah yes, EBR's pulling handbrake turns without any loss of speed. It was discovered that a bug had crept into the game, and I'm not making this up, in patch 1.9.2. And when EBR drivers were pulling these 180-degree U-turns and taking their finger off the accelerator, they were slowing down. Imagine that for a second. When the driver took his foot off the accelerator, the tank slowed down. Now those of you who are capable of thinking and breathing at the same time might think that that sounds perfectly logical and reasonable, but not wargaming. Not with these things. No, that was considered a bug, and so it was hot fixed out in patch 1.9.3. No, we can't possibly have these things slowing down to as little as 72 kilometers per hour while pulling a 180-degree turn at full speed. That simply wouldn't do. For a while I considered suggesting that you should possibly try it out for yourself in the real world. Take your car out onto the motorway, get it up to a good 95 kilometers per hour, and then momentarily take your foot off the accelerator and jam the wheel all the way over, fully left or right. But actually no, don't do that. It's an incredibly stupid idea. You'll die. But anyway, back to the game. You might have noticed that until a couple of seconds ago, Hornet's team were outnumbered 2-1, with 5 tanks surviving against 10 enemies, and they're all herded into this one corner of the map. The friendly EBR did just get a kill against the enemy Centurion. Unfortunately, they've just lost another tank of their own, so they're still basically outnumbered 2-1, but the crucial thing to remember here is that there's only one EBR left in play. The 2 enemy EBRs are both dead, and Hornet's team is the only team that still has an EBR. So it's 9 against 4, but one of the 4 is an EBR. How much of a difference do you think being in the team with a surviving EBR is going to make when you're all herded into one corner of the map and you're outnumbered basically 2-1? Just watch. While you're trying to calculate the odds of that one, ask yourself this question as well. Just exactly how much of a coincidence do you think it is that the only tanks surviving on Hornet's team are the ones that have camped hard in this corner of the map the entire battle? The ones that hid from the EBRs. The ones who only got shot at and took damage when they tried to move forward from cover and got spotted by the EBRs. Now, of course, the shoe is firmly on the other foot, because the enemy team don't have any EBRs, and they now have to advance across open ground. And of course, the second they move and break cover, they're the ones getting spotted and shot at. It's funny how that works, isn't it? I swear these things are worse than artillery ever was. Do you remember the bad old days of artillery, when you could get 4 artillery per team? Or more. I can remember seeing anything up to 6 artillery on a side. Do you remember what it was like with those kind of artillery in play before the artillery nerfs, when they could really do some serious damage to you? I remember getting 2-shotted my IS-7 when I broke cover for half a second by T-92s dropping armour-piercing shells on me. Gone. Dead. No counterplay. It's a bit like playing a destroyer in World of Warships when there's an aircraft carrier on the enemy team. Well, that's basically what this is. You break cover, you're spotted, boom. What does that teach you to do? Not break cover. And that's the reason why these are the only surviving tanks, because these are the ones who've stayed hidden the entire game. Now there's some fun and engaging gameplay for you. Camp in a bush and hope you don't get spotted. Even then it doesn't work. I recall reading a post on Reddit from somebody who was playing in his Leopard 1. And the Leopard 1, remember, is a tank that basically has nothing going for it other than its extreme mobility and a pretty good gun. So this guy's in cover, keeping the middle spotted, sniping the flanks. Boom! 517 high explosive damage. Captain dead. Gunner dead. Boom! 511 high explosive damage. Driver dead. It's an EBR 105, of course. He's just taken over half of the Leopard's health, killed 3 of his crew. The Leopard driver pops his large medkit, starts trying to reposition. The EBR is literally driving circles around the medium tank in the game with arguably the best mobility. He didn't stand a chance. He got 1 shot off, which of course got eaten by the EBR's wheels without slowing him down at all, and then he died. Fun and engaging gameplay right there. Well, you'll be delighted to know, unless you're a fan of driving French-wheeled vehicles, that Wargaming are considering nerfing them at last. An actual nerf, that is, not an unintended bug that causes them to slow down when the driver has the temerity to take his foot off the accelerator. I still can't believe that's real, but it absolutely was. No, they're actually thinking of giving them a good proper nerf. Of course, when I heard that they were contemplating nerfing these things, I didn't have an awful lot of confidence. I mean, I remember what happened when Wargaming said they were going to nerf the Kremlin. For those of you who don't play World of Warships, it's a Tier 10 Soviet battleship with insane tankiness and survivability. Wargaming said that they'd heard player concerns and they were going to address it by nerfing its anti-aircraft guns. So I was fully expecting this sort of thing in World of Tanks as well. But apparently they are actually looking into the possibility of implementing some kind of nerfs to affect its mobility when its wheels take damage and the ridiculous effectiveness of the assisted auto-aim. Less than 2 minutes of this match to go, by the way. Still 4 enemies. Oh, and there's the artillery. Well, of course it is. Right, so what sort of nerfs are we talking about here? Well, they can be summarised as thus. If you hit one of these things and don't actually damage it, but do blow one of its wheels off, you can expect it to slow down with 1 damaged wheel to around about 72 kilometers per hour, and with a second damaged wheel to around about 52 kilometers per hour. But only if those are the wheels that are actually in contact with the ground. So if the vehicle's in cruise mode with its 4 middle wheels lifted up, blowing one of those off, well, tough shit. They're also looking at a broad range of nerfs on the EBR 105 and the EBR 90's gun handling to address the ridiculous ease with which those things can utterly devastate a machine on the move while moving at full speed and circle strafing them. 2 enemy machines left, the T-92 artillery and the Mouse. The Mouse is, of course, 100% completely AFK. Note that EBR 105 going looking for the T-92. Well done. He finds the T-92 shoots him, And his 155mm high explosive shell presumably goes into his tracks because it only does 45 damage. That just leaves the mouse, who's getting swarmed by everybody, and that's it. Game over. The team with the most surviving EBRs won, despite being herded into one corner of the map and outnumbered 2-1. That's 7,200 damage done for Hornet 10 in the Progetto 65, which is only good enough for a second-class mastery badge, which begs the question just exactly what kind of scores are other people doing in the Progetto 65 that is only good enough for second class. But well, this video wasn't really about Hornet 10 or the Progetto 65, was it? No, it was about the guys who scored top on experience on both teams. Yes, the EBR drivers. Now, I don't know how many shots were fired at the various different EBRs in this battle during the course of the whole engagement. I couldn't possibly know that, but I know how many shots Hornet started this game with, 60. And I can tell you how many he finished with, 9. And I can tell you how many hits the EBRs took. So, of the hundreds of shots that were fired at these little fuckers throughout the course of this entire game, Deputy Hagler, the surviving EBR on Hornet's team, took 9 hits. These things only have 1,300 health. He took 9 hits, 8 of them penetrated, and that didn't kill him. Which of course means that the majority of those penetrating hits actually went into his wheels and did the sum total of fuck all. The same is true of Twisted Oleg, the top scoring EBR on the enemy team, who took 7 hits, 5 of which penetrated. It's a slightly different story with Phantom Kill, the other EBR on the enemy team, who took 2 hits, 1 of which penetrated, but then again one of those hits was a direct hit from the friendly Sheridan's dirty great big howitzer, so that kind of explains that. The truly shocking thing about these post-battle results, however, is the amount of spotting damage that was earned by the 3 EBRs. Between the 3 of them, they accumulated nearly 19,000 spotting damage, which basically means that for all practical intents and purposes, there wasn't a single tank in that battle that got shot that was not as a result of being spotted by an EBR. 4,000 spotting damage for each of the 2 enemy EBRs, and more than 11,000 spotting damage for the friendly EBR. By contrast, the only light tank in that game, the Sheridan, 876 spotting damage. And the truly disgusting thing about that is it's next to impossible to score any spotting damage against an EBR, because even if you blow their wheels off, it doesn't count. And just when you thought things couldn't get even more ridiculous, that 7,000 damage gain from Hornet 10 and the Progetto 65, that cost him 116,000 credits, with the premium account. There is some hope on the horizon, however. Wargaming have acknowledged that there is a problem with machines like the EBR-105 and to a lesser degree the EBR-90, and have said that they are committed to implementing some kind of Nerf package. Based on how quickly and effectively Wargaming tend to move where this sort of thing is concerned, I fully anticipate that by the time Star Citizen goes into full release, we can expect to see the anti-aircraft guns on the EBR-105 hit with the Nerf hammer. That's it for today, folks. I won't say I hope you enjoyed it, although I never know. Maybe some of you did. Some men just want to see the world burn. But as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.